In my first life, when I married the heir of the Duke of England, I rose early and slept late every day, diligently managing the household. But the young lord was cold and distant toward me, polite yet formal. Before I even turned 30, I worked myself to death. Before I died, my maiden family was already discussing marrying off my half-sister to him as a second wife. After my first rebirth, I started living in luxury, eating and enjoying life. Unexpectedly, the family business flourished even more. The children became more obedient, and the servants more honest. The young lord also loved and cherished me more. But in this life, I still didn't live past 30. I finally understood that my death was no accident. Reborn once again, I will find whoever secretly harmed me and cut them into 1,000 pieces. When Chuya called out to me in her squeaky voice for the third time, I knew I had come back again. What appeared before my eyes was still the autumn yellow soft canopy and jade ruby ornaments in my room. Everything was as familiar as could be. Madam, are you all right? Chuya continued assaulting my ears with her voice. I rubbed my brow and said, I am fine. Although I was a bit impatient, I still tried to control my tone. After all, Chuya was a loyal servant, but anyone who loops through the same period 3 times would inevitably feel deep annoyance. My name is Song Ching-wan, and I am the young lord's wife of the Duke of England's household. This is now my 10th year since marrying into the Duke's household. In my first life, when I married the young Lord Xiaozhao, my heart was full of love and anticipation. I was filial to my in-laws, treated my sisters-in-law kindly, managed the vast family estate, waking early and sleeping late every day, diligently running the household, and earned a reputation for being virtuous. But Xiaozhao always treated me with cold politeness, never once opening his heart to me. Only later did I learn that Xiaozhao once had a fiancée, betrothed to him since the womb. But she passed away before they could marry, and Xiaozhao had been depressed for years because of it. If it weren't for the 3 unfilial acts and his parents' pressure, he probably would never have married. After learning about this, my mind still wasn't clear. I always thought the dead were gone, and if I worked hard to be his virtuous wife, I could eventually warm his heart. But reality proved I was overthinking it. Even until I worked myself to death, Xiaozhao never showed me the slightest tenderness. Later, when my maiden family saw I was on my last breath, they proposed having my half-sister Song Qinging become his second wife, and Xiaozhao just gave a soft. With endless pain and regret, I experienced my first rebirth. This time I was reborn in the 10th year after marrying into this family, only 3 or 4 years before my death. Looking at my rigid and stern mother-in-law, my sisters-in-law who stirred up trouble at every turn, my pampered and precious younger sister-in-law, and my husband who was cold as an iceman from start to finish, I gave up trying. Having died once, I would never again pour my heart out for these cold-blooded in-laws and birth family. Nor would I treat the 4 words virtuous and gentle as my guiding principle. My sister-in-law wanted to snatch the authority of managing the household, so I just let her have it. My mother-in-law was stunned by this, and rarely showed such kindness as she held my hand. Zhao is the heir. This family estate will eventually be handed over to you. Between the lines, she just wanted me to keep bearing responsibilities, keep toiling away. Over the years, my mother-in-law was actually satisfied with me, but she always acted extremely picky, and even propped up my sister-in-law Lady Li against me, well versed in the emperor's art of balancing power. Thinking about it now, it is just a run-down duke's manner. What is with all the power balancing? What a water-brained idiot. I lowered my head and rolled my eyes, then had Kuyo hire a doctor to exaggerate my health condition, saying if I didn't rest and recuperate soon, I wouldn't be far from death. This wasn't exactly a lie either. In fact, 4 years later, due to years of toil, depleted vitality and depression, a mere cold took my life. After relinquishing the responsibility of managing the household, I started growing flowers and plants, eating and drinking well. When I was annoyed, I'd scold the concubines, or pick a fight with the current household manager, Lady Li. In my previous life, this was exactly what Lady Li did. Whenever her courtyard lacked even half a tail of lamp oil, or when the servants' monthly wages were delayed by 2 hours, she would badmouth me behind my back. This time, I also wanted her to truly experience the pain of clutching everything tightly, yet actually owning nothing. When I was in a good mood, I'd go spend time with the children. Life couldn't be more comfortable, speaking of children. Xiaozhao and I have a legitimate son named Shi Yun. This child has been sensible since young, started his education at 3, and was extremely close and loving to me. But when Shi Yun was 7, the current Duke of England, that is, Xiaozhao's father proposed to personally raise Shi Yun and had the child move to the outer courtyard. As time went on, Shi Yun and I grew distant. In this life, I've spent most of my time trying to win over my son. As for Xiaozhao, I've completely given up on him. However, things didn't go as expected. Ever since I let myself go, Xiaozhao started looking at me differently. I no longer sent him snacks, soups, or handmade clothes, and I certainly wouldn't press my warm face against his cold ass to fuss over him. Xiaozhao went from discomfort to confusion to awkwardly learning to coax me. He would condescend to ask me what was troubling me and why I was acting so differently. This was something that never happened in my previous life, but I no longer had the mood to deal with him and just brushed him off, saying I wasn't feeling well and wouldn't be able to look after him anymore. If he felt neglected, he could take a few more concubines. Actually, Xiaozhao had 2 bedwarmers who were promoted to concubines after we got married. Namely concubine Hu and concubine Ji. However, Xiaozhao wasn't interested in women, and these 2 concubines were practically just for show, all taken in by my mother-in-law to keep me in check. So naturally, my suggestion was rejected by Xiaozhao. Seeing him confused and troubled, not understanding why, I could only sneer. Later on, Xiaozhao finally realized that my heart had grown cold. He started trying to please me, buying me fabric for clothes, having jewelry made, carefully coaxing me. Seeing him like this, I felt truly exhilarated. In all those years married to Xiaozhao, I would fret every day over how to please him, feel hurt from never getting any response, constantly exhausting myself emotionally. These feelings let Xiaozhao have a good taste of them too. Having lived 2 lives, I gradually came to understand Xiaozhao's heart. It is not that he didn't love me, he was just somewhat resistant to me at first. He had many things to be busy with, gradually neglected my feelings, yet got used to my sensibility and care. In his heart, I was omnipotent, indestructible, perfect in everything, so I didn't need his tenderness and care at all. After figuring all this out, I didn't feel relieved, nor did I want to forgive him. I just thought he was pathetic. So it turned out only by losing me would he realize how much he depended on me. Just like in my first life, until I died, Xiaozhao never cared about me. Now I see clearly, I will never beg for his love again, just treating him as a decoration. Later, my health got better, and my state of mind became clearer and more tranquil. Because I wasn't managing the household, my mother-in-law had no excuse to lash out at me, and my sister-in-law wouldn't ask for this today and that tomorrow. I am the current empress's younger sister, with a powerful family background and a generous dowry. So there was no way I would lack money to spend. Just when everything was getting better, I suddenly fell bedridden with illness, lingering and unable to recover. My condition clearly wasn't serious yet. In the end, I was still on the verge of death. Before I died, I suddenly realized that my deaths in both lives were no accident. Someone must have been secretly harming me. Who on earth could this person be? Whose way did I get in that they had to kill me? Was it Xiaozhao's concubine, or Lady Li, or perhaps my illegitimate sister from my maiden family, Song Qinging? No matter who it is, I won't just sit and wait for death again. Returning to this world for the 3rd time, I will cut the one who harmed me into 1,000 pieces. Past events are as vivid as yesterday. I steadied my mind and finally let out a long breath. Chuyu asked timidly. Madam, your complexion looks terrible. Should we invite a doctor to take a look? Over these years, I've been cautious with my words and careful in my actions at the Duke's mansion, not daring to casually call a doctor even for minor ailments. But I've already done this once before, so now it is even more effortless. Yes, of course we should. Not only should we invite one, but find one who is greedy for money and can spout nonsense. Although Chuya was puzzled, she still went to carry out my orders. Before long, that Dr. Lee from Huichun Hall in my previous life was invited over. Without even taking my pulse, Dr. Lee, under my guidance, issued a prescription stating I had yin-yang deficiency and blocked meridians, requiring long-term rest. After the people in the mansion heard I was ill, they all came to visit. I naturally handed over the household token and freed myself from the responsibilities of managing the household. Facing my mother-in-law's hesitant and conflicted gaze, I didn't even blink. After all, these weren't the most important matters. The most pressing issue was to hire a female physician skilled in medicine to stay by my side around the clock, to check my personal belongings and food. Just as I was pondering this, Chuya came to report, "The young lord has returned and came specifically to see you." Over these years, Xie Zhao spent half his time sleeping in the outer study, busy with his official duties, and would come to my room the rest of the time. Am I out of my mind? Why should I still accommodate him and satisfy him now? Just tell the young lord that I am not feeling well and might pass my illness to him, so he shouldn't come over for the time being, I said indifferently. Chuya said worriedly, Wouldn't that be inappropriate? What is inappropriate about it? When I am about to lose my life, what use is the bond between husband and wife? Besides, I've long seen through Xie Zhao and have no desire to keep up pretenses with him. But just as we were talking, Xie Zhao had already walked in first. He had always been an upright gentleman. His every action and word was exceptionally graceful and handsome. I heard you are ill. Have you taken any medicine? Xie Zhao's expression was calm, with only a hint of concern in his eyes. I looked him up and down for a moment, but what I was thinking was, could he be the one who harmed me? As they say, the sun and moon are the highest and brightest, husband and wife are the closest, yet most distant. Over these years, although Xie Zhao hadn't treated me well, his character wasn't actually bad. He wasn't even ruthless enough in officialdom. Would he really do something so vicious to someone close to him? Not to brag, but I come from a noble family. I am beautiful, virtuous in managing the household, and I've even borne him a legitimate son. Once I pass away, Xie Zhao can only remarry, and it would be hard to find a wife better than me. But maybe he just wants me to make room for the one dearest to his heart. All along, I only thought Xie Zhao wasn't interested in women, but perhaps in places unknown to me, he has another beauty as his confidante. Thinking of this, I didn't dare alert the enemy, and only said, I am fine, just very tired. I'll be better after some rest. Xie Zhao nodded. There are many matters in the manor. You've worked hard all these years. It is good to take a rest. After he finished speaking, I saw he seemed to want to stay the night here with me. I hurriedly said, The doctor said I shouldn't share a bed during this time. Why don't you go see concubine Ji instead? I heard her father passed away. My illness has nothing to do with whether we can have intercourse. And Xie Zhao naturally knew it was just an excuse. He stared at me fixedly, his expression uncertain, and only after a moment did he stand up and say, All right, my ass. I couldn't be bothered to get up and see him off, only pondering where to start first. The next day I made some pastries for my son Xieyun and brought them to the outer study for him. When the child saw me coming, his face lit up with joy, leaning in my arms and chatting for quite a while. Naturally, I comforted him gently, saying, Mother will come see you when I have time. You must study hard. Ziyun nodded his head like a chick pecking at rice. Son will study hard. The child is still young, so easy to coax. In my first life, my mother-in-law always told me that a boy who hangs around his mother every day would be spoiled, and told me not to visit him so often. I did as she said, but after this child grew up, he became quite distant from me. Now, I absolutely cannot allow such a thing to happen. I can do without Shizhao, but I cannot do without the child I worked so hard to give birth to. After coaxing the child, I submitted a request to the palace. I need to enter the palace to visit my elder sister, Empress Song, and ask her for a female physician skilled in medicine. Next, I began to clean up my own courtyard swiftly and decisively. If I was indeed harmed by someone in my previous 2 lives, the culprit must be someone close to me. As the wife of the heir of the Duke's mansion, even if not as safe as in the imperial inner palace, I am still the mistress of a prestigious household. If someone could reach me without anyone noticing, it must definitely be an insider. Yesterday, I had already tested all the food sent from the kitchen with silver needles one by one, and there was no problem. But I can't be sure whether they only had someone poison me after I fell ill, or whether I was gradually contaminated by toxins over time. The enemy is in the dark, while I am in the light, making it impossible to guard against everything. I must investigate from the source. Besides the servants who came with me as part of my dowry from the Song residence, there are 2 people in my courtyard who belong to my mother-in-law, and 1 maid who is close to my sister-in-law, Lady Li Since. You can never truly know what is in someone's heart. I didn't want to bother. I had Kuyo find an excuse and directly drove these 3 people out. As for whether my mother-in-law will be unhappy, I can't worry about that much. Next, I had people move Concubine Ji and Concubine Hu to the far west side of the courtyard and even set up a small kitchen for them, so they wouldn't need to come to the main house to pay respects unless there was something important. These 2 concubines were both house-born maids of the Xia family, without much worldly experience or insight. If you asked whether they'd dare to harm me, it probably wouldn't go that far. After all, this is the prestigious Duke of England's manor. Even if I died, they couldn't possibly be elevated to official wife, and whoever came in as the next wife might not be as lenient as me. But if they were instigated by villains and colluded with outsiders to do something foolish, that is hard to say. Sending them away and keeping them far from my courtyard is the only way to be safe. How is it? Are the 2 concubines displeased? After arranging everything, I asked Kuya. Chuyu gave a cold snort and said, Concubine Hu secretly cried her eyes out, saying that Madam dislikes her and no one stands up for her. Concubine Ji didn't say anything though, just ordered the small kitchen to make her white fungus and lotus seed porridge. This concubine Hu looks quite pretty, but her head is full of mush. Moving to the west side is more remote, but firstly, I didn't stop Shizhao from sleeping with them, and secondly, their rooms are more spacious now. With an extra small kitchen, it is a good deal all around. It seems Concubine Ji is still a sensible person. I am not afraid of sensible people. Now what I fear are those big fools who can easily be used as pawns by others. Next, I turned my attention to Lady Li. If you asked who has been most openly at odds with me all these years, it is definitely this sister-in-law without a doubt. Lady Li and I are the same, both noble ladies from prestigious families. Come to think of it, she is actually my mother-in-law's distant cousin's niece, more favored by my mother-in-law than me. So all these years Lady Li has been quite displeased with me managing the household. She is someone with high ambitions and strong tactics, always wanting to suppress my influence and become the head of this household. Her thoughts are easy to understand, but what I actually don't understand is my mother-in-law. If she truly liked Lady Li, she should have her get along well with me, keep both branches harmonious and loving, so the family reputation could be proper. Besides, Xia Zhao is the heir apparent. No matter how outstanding Lady Li is, the Duke of England's manor might not be hers in the future. No matter how much she contributes, it is all making wedding clothes for others. But my mother-in-law is different. always openly and secretly favoring Lady Li, hinting for Lady Li to compete against me, stirring up the relationship between U.S. sisters-in-law until we're like fire and water. The bad atmosphere in the family all these years is all the result of my mother-in-law stirring up trouble. Thinking back to my first life, I was young and naive, and was led around by the nose by my mother-in-law quite often. Now that I no longer manage the household and don't compete with Lady Li, the most anxious one must be my mother-in-law. Speaking of which, back when I was gravely ill, did Lady Li have a hand in it? But on second thought, that is not right. In my first life, I indeed competed with Lady Li, and it is possible Lady Li wanted to take advantage of my illness to take my life. But in my second life, I had already given up household management duties. Lady Li was enjoying the pleasure of holding power. Why would she risk harming me? There is no life or death feud between us. The one who made a move against me shouldn't be Lady Li. Then who else could it be? Thinking it over, could it be my half-sister from my maiden family? Song Qingying. Song Qingying is more than 10 years younger than me. She was only 5 when I got married, so we weren't very close. In these years since I married into the Duke of England's manor, I'd occasionally invite her over to stay for a few days. Could it be that I've grown her appetite, and now she wants to take my place? But after I fell seriously ill, she only came to visit me twice with my mother, and each visit wasn't long. She probably didn't have a chance to make a move. Right now danger lurks everywhere. Yet I can't sort out my thoughts. Kuya watched me frown one moment, look troubled the next, then gnash my teeth. Fearing I'd gone hysterical, she hurriedly brewed me a bowl of calming tea. The next morning, I entered the palace. Empress Song is my blood sister, 5 years older than me. We sisters have always been very close. Today's timing was good. The crown prince happened to be at Empress Song's place, so I could chat a bit with this noble nephew of mine. The crown prince is 3 years older than Shi Yun, a fair-skinned, slender, and well-mannered young man. Next time, Auntie must bring cousin Yun over. I want to play Kuju with him, the crown prince said. I patted his head and said, definitely, definitely. The Xia family is always unwilling to let me bring Shi Yun into the palace, saying they need to avoid suspicion. But we're family by blood. Even the emperor and empress don't think that way. Yet they as subjects keep going on every day about propriety between heaven, earth, ruler, and kin. I was just too agreeable before. After the crown prince left, I made my request to my sister. Empress Song smiled and said, "Are you trying to condition your body and have another child?" Over the years, I only had Sheyun as my child, so my offspring were indeed rather sparse. I shook my head. I want someone skilled in poisons to protect my safety. My sister's phoenix eyes flashed, her brows furrowed tightly. Summono wants to harm you? Who is so bold? That is not it. I just had a dream and want to take precautions, I said. Next, I gave my sister a condensed version of my past and present lives, cutting out the beginning and end. My sister pondered for a moment and said, "You are right, never mind you. Even for me, wanting to protect this imperial wealth and status is like walking on thin ice. I can't afford to be careless. Don't worry, sister. I'll find someone for you right away. I'll say they're for conditioning your body and send them to your residence." There was naturally no problem with how my sister handled things. I nodded. As long as we sisters are of one heart, we have nothing to worry about. In the future, when Yunner grows up, he'll assist the crown prince too. My sister smiled slightly and said, "Everything will surely be as you say, sister." Things went very smoothly, and I was in a good mood. After returning to the residence, I originally planned to take a bath and have a good meal, but unexpectedly, Xiaozhao was actually home waiting for me. For so many years, it had always been me desperately waiting for Xiaozhao, waiting for him to turn around and look at me. This was the first time he was waiting for me to come home. There was an indescribable sense of satisfaction in my heart. I returned to my room proudly, surrounded by maids and servants, and sat down leisurely. Looking at Xiaozhao's expressionless face, I suddenly felt like laughing. He really resembles the Duke of Ying. Both are reserved and restrained people who treat never showing emotions on one's face as a life goal. Since he can endure it, let him keep enduring. After a standoff for a while, seeing that I wouldn't speak first, Xie Zhao could only ask, "You went to the palace?" I nodded. I wanted to ask my sister to find me a female physician skilled in health conditioning, so it'll be more convenient to see a doctor in the future. After that, we both fell silent. Xie Zhao was also a man of few words before, but I would considerately make small talk to liven up the atmosphere. Now, if he doesn't speak, I won't either. Let's just leave it hanging like this after all. We're already an old married couple. Seeing me continuously fiddling with the jade bracelet on my wrist, Xie Zhao finally couldn't hold back anymore. "I heard you went to the outer study to see Yunner yesterday, even drove away a few servants. And this morning, you specially went to the palace." I looked up at him, meaning, "You got a problem with that?" A hint of bewilderment flashed in Xie Zhao's eyes. His thin lips parted slightly as he said, "You've always been gracious and proper, acting with consideration. Lately, do you have any troubles?" Huh. He noticed pretty early this time. Seems like my moves were too obvious. But I had no choice but to act. Saving my life is what matters most. I considered for a moment and said, "I am fine. It is just that I've been feeling unwell," which made me sigh about how unpredictable life is. Who knows, I might die any day, so I can't leave any regrets behind. Xie Zhao was even more puzzled and said, "You are sick yet? You are still running around everywhere. Acting as you please?" I sneered coldly. Driving out a few servants with ill intentions counts as acting willfully. Visiting my own biological son counts as being inconsiderate. Going to see my blood sister counts as running around everywhere. The Duke of England's mansion sure has such grand rules. This was my first time mocking Xie Zhao without holding back at all. How does that saying go? If you've never been scolded by your own wife, you haven't truly experienced life. I had a responsibility to let Xie Zhao experience a richer life, to let him understand what a warm greeting from his wife was like. Xie Zhao had never experienced my sharp tongue before, and was momentarily stunned. I glanced at him disdainfully and said indifferently, "If the young lord has nothing else, this concubine needs to take her medicine and rest." The underlying meaning was, get lost and cool off somewhere else. Seeing me so cold, Xie Zhao's eyes were both confused and irritated. "What exactly are you making a fuss about? Have I done something wrong, let you down somehow?" He actually dared to ask what he'd done to let me down. I was truly speechless, looking up at the heavens. After thinking for a moment, I decided to stop playing guessing games with him, lest he always feels so good about himself. "I heard that your superior Lord Yang is a serious person who rarely jokes with his subordinates. Yet in private, he paints Lady Yang's eyebrows. His Majesty, the Emperor, handles countless affairs, daily, and possesses all under heaven. Yet he still sings little ditties for my sister, Empress Song." I scolded mercilessly. "As a husband, what have you done well? Go ahead and tell me. What have you, Xie Zhao, ever done for me, Song Qingwan? If you can name even one thing, then I've wronged you." Xie Zhao was stumped by my question. He stood there, dumbfounded for a moment, and said, He must know too that all this time, I've been the only one giving in this relationship, while he is just a heartless bastard who acts like a whore but still wants to be honored as a chaste woman." Under my furious glare, this guy actually fled like a lost soul. What a coward. After he left, Chuye walked over tremblingly and said, "The young master nearly tripped over the threshold on his way out." I asked with concern, "Is the threshold all right?" 2 days later, my sister, Empress Song, sent me a female physician. This female physician's surname was Tan and given name Fang. She was the daughter of the Imperial Medical Bureau's chief physician, and had studied medicine since childhood, no less skilled than any man. She first took my pulse, then said thoughtfully, Madam has a good constitution and no physical ailments. There is just some yin deficiency. Let me help you recuperate for a few days, and you'll recover soon. I nodded, feeling somewhat relieved. At least for now, I was safe. 2 days later, Xie Zhao seemed to have thought things through somewhat, and sent someone close to him to deliver a precious jade bracelet to me. I held up the jade bracelet in the sunlight. This color, this translucency, it must have cost quite a lot of silver. Chuya teased. The young lord finally knows how to please madam. It seems you can't just be virtuous all the time. You have to lose your temper occasionally. Your suffering these years hasn't been in vain after all. I smiled without a word and gave the bracelet to Tan Fang. After Tan Fang left, Chuya whispered, "Madam, isn't this inappropriate? I know you value Lady Dr. Tan, but this was a gift from the young lord after all." "Yes, Xie Zhao rarely gives me anything, even Chuya knows that." I shrugged and said wistfully, "The child died and the milk finally came. Who cares anyway?" My days were going smoothly and peacefully, while things were the complete opposite for Xie Zhao. I heard from the servants at the outer study that one night, Xie Zhao didn't even have spare undergarments to change into, and he flew into a rage at the servants around him. Xie Zhao has always been a hypocrite with feigned kindness. It is rare for him to show his emotions so openly like this. Actually, this really can't be blamed on his servants. Ever since I married into this household, I'd been priding myself on being virtuous every day, never letting the sewing room people make things for Xie Zhao anymore. Every stitch and thread on him came from my hands. Now that I've suddenly stopped caring, isn't Xie Zhao just left stranded halfway? The dignified air of Duke Ying, without even undergarments or socks to change into if word got out, people would laugh themselves to death. I secretly laughed for half the day. To avoid giving anyone something to gossip about, I summoned the head of the sewing room and gave her a scolding. "This household can lack anyone's things, but not the young master's. Do you want the young master to serve his country with his bare ass? Is this how you do your work? Who on earth taught you? You bunch of conscienceless whores." This head servant was Madame Li's confidant, and always used to oppose me. Now she could only lower her head and take the scolding, completely unable to voice her grievances. I heard that after she went back, she repeated everything to Madame Li, making Madame Li so angry she smashed 2 teacups. Then I ordered Concubine Ji and Concubine Hu to work through the night, making sure they produced 5 sets of sleepwear within 3 days. Concubine Ji said nothing and worked obediently in her room. But Concubine Hu was resentful, dawdling around, and by the deadline hadn't even finished half. I didn't hold back either and directly docked her monthly allowance. According to Chuya, Concubine Hu was crying in the courtyard, saying I was being harsh to her and bullying her. I had Chuya go tell her. Disrespecting the main wife is an even greater offense, all monthly allowance revoked, confined to quarters for half a year. Concubine Hu was dumbfounded, then was locked up by the servant women and maids. Xie Zhao soon received the undergarments made by the sewing room, Concubine Jai, and Concubine Hu. But he could tell at a glance they weren't made by me. After all, these garments were far less refined than what I made, and not nearly as comfortable. But he was a man with the air of an ancient gentleman valuing frugality, and not caring for material desires. There was no way he'd lower himself to ask me to make him underwear and socks. Besides that, all those mild medicinal dishes that suited his taste, late-night snacks and fresh pastries from daily life, were completely gone as well. Let alone Xie Zhao, even the servants in his study had quite a few complaints. This is what they mean by easy to go from frugality to luxury, hard to go from luxury to frugality. Seeing that I was dead set on giving him the cold shoulder, Xie Zhao was extremely troubled. He sent me gifts several times, but I turned around and gave them all to others. Xie Zhao was used to being aloof and couldn't bring himself to show goodwill, so he could only send Xie Quan to see me. Xie Quan was the eldest son of Xie Zhao's wet nurse and his most capable subordinate. Back in my first life, because I cared about Shi Jiao, I often summoned Shi Quan to the inner courtyard to ask questions, wanting to understand this husband of mine better and find common ground with him. Lately, I hadn't sought out Shi Quan at all, but unexpectedly he came to my door himself. Xi Quan stood in the courtyard, first greeting me with an eager attitude, then reported to me about Shi Jiao's recent work schedule, especially emphasizing how hard he worked on his duties. He knew very well what should and shouldn't be said, and had served as a mediator between Shi Jiao and me for years. I didn't want to make things difficult for him, and only said, "I am just a woman. I don't understand men's affairs outside. There is no need to come specially to inform me in the future." Xi Quan's face stiffened, and he hurriedly said, "Why does Madam belittle yourself so? Actually, all these years the person the young master values most in his heart is you. Please don't become estranged from the young master over such trivial matters." I didn't say anything, just looked at him with a cold smile, meaning, "Do you believe that yourself?" Xi Quan's dark face flushed red, and he lowered his head, saying, "The young master. He has a cold exterior but a warm heart, deeply devoted to Madam. Just a few days ago, he even asked me how to win his wife's favor at home." Meme, what a loyal servant. I rubbed my brow and said, "Then teach him well." After saying that, I waved my hand, and Tuya hurried forward. "Madam is not feeling well. Now that you've finished speaking, please leave." Xi Quan's attitude was exactly what Xie Zhao intended. Even having experienced this once before, I still found it unbelievable. There really are people like this in the world won't move when led, but back up when beaten. I used to be so good to him, and he was unmoved. But now that I've withdrawn my kindness, he finally realizes his mistakes. Human nature is truly base, and Xie Zhao is the basest of them all. Just as I was silently cursing, someone came to report, "Madam, there is news from Li Fu." My expression changed, and I said, "Have him come to report." Li Fu was a servant from my dowry, originally managing my silk and satin shop in the capital. He had always been shrewd and capable, so there were certain matters I specifically had him handle, and he indeed didn't disappoint me. After Li Fu arrived, I asked bluntly, "Have you figured out exactly who is in that residence?" From the moment I was just reborn, I had Li Fu find someone to track Xie Zhao. My intuition told me that my death must have been connected to him. Li Fu handled things very properly. Not long ago, he discovered that Xi Jiao had a private residence in Chang'an Ward, and he would go there to sit for a while every half-month or so. No matter how you look at it, it seems like he is keeping a mistress, hiding a beauty in a golden house. Li Fu knew my mood must be bad, so he bent at the waist and said respectfully, "Over these past few days, this humble one found that the residence is occupied by a woman, surnamed Shi, about 20 years old, with 2 maidservants, and no other relatives." Then he peered at my expression and said, "This humble one believes the young lord may not necessarily have any relationship with this lady Shi. He has never stayed overnight in Changle Ward. Each time he just sits for a while and leaves. Perhaps she is the wife of an old friend, and the young lord is looking after her on their behalf." The wife of an old friend? Not necessarily. In a flash, I suddenly remembered that Xie Zhao's deceased fiancée seemed to be surnamed Shi, the niece of Marquis Zhongyang, Shi Guocheng, Shi Fangfei. The year I first married into the Duke of Ying's manor, my days were very agonizing. I didn't understand why my husband was so cold, not even willing to say a single word to me. I had seen how my brother and sister-in-law got along, and knew what a husband and wife should be like. Even my parents, an old married couple like them, had moments of warm conversation and tenderness. Zhao's behavior puzzled me endlessly. If he despised me, why did he come to propose marriage in the first place? My blood sister is the current empress, and she has even given birth to the crown prince. The daughters of the Song family never have to worry about finding a husband. Later, after my sister summoned my mother-in-law to the palace and warned her twice, my mother-in-law finally told me that Shi Zhao had once been close with the Shi family's daughter, and the two families nearly got engaged. It is just that Shi Fangfei was ill-fated and passed away at only 15. I remember my mother-in-law holding my hand and saying, "Zhao's difficulty forgetting his old flame just shows he is devoted. As long as you are a good and supportive wife to him, he'll surely have a place for you in his heart." This load of bullshit successfully fooled me into slaving away for over a decade. Looking at it now, the Shai family's daughter either rose from the dead or faked her death. That bastard Shi Zhao must have wanted to rekindle the old flame, which is why he wanted to kill me to make room for Shi Fangfei. Even though there is no more affection between Shi Zhao and me, my heart still aches bitterly. It takes 10 years of fate to share the same boat, 100 years of fate to share the same bed. This villain is truly heartless. Thinking about how in my second life, he pretended to be deeply affectionate while plotting to harm me, I feel utterly disgusted. What should I do? If my opponent is Shi Zhao, I really can't guard against all his schemes. As long as I remain in the Duke of Ying's manor for even a day, I can't escape those insidious plots that seep through every crack. For the moment, I can't think of a better solution besides divorce. But divorce is easier said than done. In my previous life, even when I was on my deathbed, my maiden family still wanted to marry Song Qinging over here. They definitely won't support me. Even my sister Empress Song, who has always doted on me for the sake of the crown prince, surely wouldn't be willing to give up the Duke of Ying's manor as an ally. Moreover, if I stubbornly insisted on leaving, my son Shi Yun's situation would become incredibly difficult. In this world, I cannot take my own child with me. But in matters of life and death, there is no room for hesitation. Since I can't leave, I can only ask Shi Zhao to die. Our dynasty's law clearly states that if a husband kills his wife, he only gets exile. But if a wife kills her husband, she will be sentenced to beheading. To survive, well, I must plan carefully. Before I could figure out how to kill Shi Zhao without anyone knowing, medical woman Tan suddenly had something to report. She said to me with a grave expression, "Madam, please dismiss everyone around you." I knew she must have something important to say, so I had Qiyu and the others leave, keeping only Tan Feng alone in the room. Tan Feng's expression changed several times before she said, "Madam, this humble servant was ordered by the Empress, and dare not slack off even a bit each day. Previously, I observed that your pulse was stable and healthy, with only symptoms of yin deficiency. This humble servant vaguely sensed something was wrong, and only after careful examination during this period did I discover that you must have been poisoned." I was shocked. I had been so careful, yet I still couldn't escape it. "How badly does Shi Zhao want me dead?" Tan Feng said. "This humble servant has checked the food you usually eat, and there was no problem. The toxin was only detected in the donkey hide gelatin paste you often use. This poison comes from an extremely rare poisonous mushroom that can gradually weaken a person. Once the toxin accumulates to a certain level, even a common cold could take your life." Wasn't it indeed a cold that took my life? This scheme was too sinister. It took me 2 lifetimes to realize it. Tan Feng handed me the bottle containing donkey hide gelatin paste and said, "The dosage inside is very light. Taking it for a year or 2 won't cause any harm. But over a long time, it will surely cut your life short." I took the bottle and carefully rubbed it between my fingers. The women of the Duke of England's household have always had the habit of taking donkey hide gelatin, so I never thought to suspect this. It seems my gelatin paste had been tampered with long ago. Seeing me lost in thought, Tan Feng said, "This humble one will strictly inspect everything Madam uses and eats from now on, and will definitely ensure your safety." I shook my head wearily. There is no way to guard against it. There are thieves who've been stealing for 1,000 years, but no one who has been guarding against thieves for 1,000 years. Going on like this is far too passive. I can't endure it any longer. I gently took Tan Feng's hand and said word by word, Things have come to this point, so I won't hide it from you. Someone in this household wants to harm me, and I can't just sit and wait for death. Do you have any way to make someone without anyone knowing?" After saying this, I made a throat-slitting gesture. Tan Fang's pupils dilated, and she knelt down drenched in sweat, saying firmly, "This humble one is a healer. I once swore to dedicate my life to practicing medicine and studying medical principles. Please forgive me, madam. Poisoning others is something this humble one truly cannot do." I sighed. I was truly like a desperate patient seeking any cure. Dr. Tan's hands are clean. She has her principles as a healer, and I shouldn't drag her into this. I hurriedly helped her up and said, "It was my confusion. Don't take it to heart." Medical woman Tan fearfully lowered her head and said, "Madam, this servant is useless." I shook my head and said, "It is fine. It is just killing someone. The palace surely has ways." After entering the palace, I exchanged a few pleasantries with my sister before getting to the main topic. Empress Song thought I came to thank her for recommending the physician. Little did she know I wanted to ask her help in murdering my own husband. She almost spat out the tea in her mouth, looking at me with shock and uncertainty. "Sister, are you sure you want to do this?" I said matter-of-factly. "What else can I do? Wait helplessly to die. I've already been poisoned. This time it was donkey hide gelatin paste. Next time it'll be white fungus soup. I can't guard against everything." My sister thought for a moment and said, "But can you be sure the poison was from Xi Jiao? I don't think he is that heartless." Xi Jiao's appearance easily wins women's favor. Even my sister has always thought he was an elegant gentleman. I could only say, I've already sent Li Fu to investigate. The manor has many people and loose tongues. There are quite a few who handle purchasing and could have access. Even if we catch someone, we might not be able to interrogate out the mastermind behind it. But sister, think about it. Who in the Duke of England's manor could poison me? It can only be a few people. There aren't many masters in the Duke of England's manor. Parents-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, sisters-in-law, and my husband. My parents-in-law, brother-in-law, sisters-in-law, and sister-in-law have no motive to harm me. Only Xi Jiao, who thinks about his supposedly dead white moonlight all day long. My sister sighed sadly. The young lord is the same, letting that Shi Fangfei into the family. Being a concubine would be fine. Why make such a fuss? I shook my head. Xi Jiao wants to get rid of me to make way for Shi Fangfei. A concubine's position, they definitely wouldn't care about that. Sister, it is good if Xi Jiao dies. Our Yunner is the only heir of the eldest branch, and in the future, the Duke of England's position will be Yunner's too. I suddenly felt I was quite ruthless myself. Empress Song nodded and said slowly, "This is indeed a way to solve the problem at its root." I knew we sisters were of one mind. Speaking of this, my sister cursed hatefully. The Shai family just breeds seductresses. Come to think of it, this Shai Fangfei is actually Consort Shan's cousin. Consort Xian is the legitimate daughter of the Marquis of Zhongyang. She has always kept a low profile in the palace. Although she isn't very favored, she gave birth to the second prince. The second prince and the crown prince aren't far apart in age, and they're often compared to each other. The empress's hatred for the Shi family wasn't just a day or two old. Out of shared enmity, and even more for my safety, my sister agreed to my plan. Empress Song gave me a 9-curve yin-yang pot. This pot was a secret technique from the previous dynasty, able to pour out 2 different liquids according to need, one of which could kill without a trace. The most wonderful thing was, the person who drank the poisoned wine wouldn't show any signs of poisoning. They would just fall into a deep sleep and never wake up, as if they died from heart palpitations. Once I killed Xi Jiao, I would destroy the pot. No matter who investigated, it would be hard to find any clues. Even if someone in the Duke of England's manor becomes suspicious, Xi Jiao will already be dead. I am Xi Yun's birth mother, so Empress Song will naturally handle the rest for me. Thinking this, I felt quite at ease. Shizhao had gotten me killed twice, and I was only harming him once. That was already very polite of me. That evening, I had Kuya prepare a table of fine dishes, then sent someone to the outer study, saying I had something to discuss with the young lord, and invited him over for a chat. The person who went said Shizhao was in a good mood and even rewarded her. Things were looking good. That night, Shizhao came as invited. Counting the days, we hadn't seen each other for more than 10 days. Meeting again felt like a lifetime had passed. Seeing that I had taken the initiative to invite him, Shizhao thought I had come around. His attitude was very warm, even bordering on attentive. Watching him serve food onto my plate, I responded with a forced smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Is Madam feeling better?" he asked gently. "Much better." I flashed him a charming smile. Zhao seemed to relax completely, gently holding my hand as if cherishing a precious treasure. "Then I am relieved about what you said to me last time." I went back and thought about it for a long time. All these years, it has been my fault. I've wronged you, madam. I only ask that you give me a chance to make amends. From now on, can we live our days together properly? After being married for so many years, this was the first time I'd heard him say so much in one breath. But harming me on one hand while confessing on the other, isn't that way too contradictory? I was non-committal and only said, "Today I had the kitchen prepare many dishes you love, and fine wine too. Let's chat while we eat." The expression on Shizhao's face relaxed even more, and he said repeatedly, "Good, good." After 3 rounds of wine, Shizhao had drunk quite a bit. I discreetly gave Qiyu a meaningful look. Qiyu understood, quietly withdrew, and brought over that pot of wine. This girl didn't know this was a lethal gut-piercing poison, so her expression was perfectly calm. I took the wine pot, but was so nervous that my palms were covered in sweat. This business of killing really isn't something just anyone can do. I took a deep breath, steadied my nerves, and calmly poured Shizhao a cup of poisoned wine. The wine rippled in the white jade cup, enchanting like amber. As long as he drank it, my life-threatening crisis would be resolved, and everything would come to an end. Without realizing it, a thin layer of sweat had formed on my forehead. I just waited for Shizhao to drink the wine in one gulp. But Shizhao, who had looked gentle and warm, suddenly froze when he saw the wine pot. His eyes reddened, his Adam's apple bobbed, and he said hoarsely, "Qingwan, you." I thought to myself, this is bad. Shizhao came from a noble family. Could it be that he recognized this wine pot? Truly falling before the battle even begins. Alerting the snake by hitting the grass, it would be hard to make a move again in the future. In a single breath, I had already thought of several countermeasures. I steadied my nerves and said slowly, "Young master, you are drunk. You should stop drinking." As soon as I said this, Chuya hurried over, wanting to take the wine pot away. But Shizhao grabbed the wine pot and said sternly to Chuya, "Leave." Chuya didn't understand what was happening and looked at me worriedly. Looking at Shizhao's dark and despairing expression, I could only nod to her. Shizhao seemed to sober up in an instant. He examined the wine pot carefully for a moment before laughing self-mockingly. "Qingwan, I don't quite understand you anymore." Now that things had come to this, I actually calmed down gradually. It might be better to have it all out in the open. If laying everything bare could get Shizhao to bring Shi Fengfei back to the manor, I could guarantee not to interfere with their life together. We'd stay out of each other's way from now on. I chuckled lightly. Why bother putting on an act? Who put the poison in my donkey hide gelatin paste? You started it. I am just returning the favor. We're even. Zizhao frowned deeply and asked in confusion. Donkey hide gelatin paste? What do you mean? Are you trying to turn this around on me? I scoffed. Stop pretending. Let's be straight with each other. The person living in Changle Lane. Is it Shi Fengfei? This question really hit hard. Zhao's face turned pale as he said, "Just for this, you want me dead?" I tugged at the corner of my lips. There is no point in pretending anymore. You made the first move, didn't you? I was just defending myself. Xi Zhao chuckled softly a few times, then closed his eyes. I thought you were doing this because of what I owed you all these years. Who knew it was actually? After saying that, he laughed again. Turns out I was just flattering myself. I was speechless. You can kill your legitimate wife for Shi Fangfei, but I can't fight back. Even if this blows up, I am not afraid. Xi Zhao sneered coldly, then stepped closer. He gripped my chin with his hand, his voice slightly trembling. Song Qingwan, in your heart, am I really such a villain? We've been husband and wife for 10 years, and this is how you see me. I broke free from his hand and pushed him hard. Don't act all hurt. In these 10 years, have you ever fulfilled your duties as a husband? Have you ever cared about me? Xie Zhao, remember this. You are the one who wronged me. Xie Zhao stumbled back a few steps in embarrassment, then said painfully, Shi Fangfei and I. It is not what you think. The Shi family and the Shi family used to be close, and we did meet a few times when we were young, but she had no feelings for me. Before her hairpin ceremony, she eloped with the family's painting and calligraphy tutor. The Shi family lied about her death to save face. 2 months ago, her husband died and she had nowhere to go. The Shai family refused to take her back, so I just looked after her a little. There was absolutely nothing inappropriate. I was stunned. Shai Fangfei faked her death because she eloped. Giving up the position of the dignified Duke of Ying's heir's wife to do something like this, how could that be possible? I didn't believe it, yet I couldn't find any other reason to refute him. Xi Zhao gazed at me deeply, raised his right hand and said, Wang Qing, I can swear to the heavens, I have never harmed you, nor have I reconciled with Shi Fangfei. Hiding it from you was my mistake. But this matter concerns the family's reputation. Involving you would do you no good. No matter what you think, you are my only wife, and I will always grow old with you. He spoke so solemnly that I couldn't help but feel emotional. If I hadn't already died twice, I might have believed him. Then who is the one that harmed me? Who administered the poison? I asked coldly. The poison couldn't have grown legs and run into my food by itself. Xie Zhao was silent for a moment, then said firmly, Rest assured, I will find the true culprit behind this, and will never put you in danger. Then he let go of the 9-turn yin-yang pot and gently pushed it toward me. In the moment I was dazed, Xie Zhao walked to the main entrance and said with his back to me, I know your heart has grown cold. It was my fault before. In the future, I will prove my sincerity to you. After saying that, he actually left. I felt relieved and hurriedly called Chuya over, telling her to smash the wine pot into pieces, then scatter them bit by bit into the lake. Destroy the evidence first. Only after watching Chuya finish doing all this, did I finally put my worried heart at ease. From what Xi Zhao just said, he wasn't the one who made a move against me. I tried to kill him, yet he didn't hold it against me. This series of actions from him made me somewhat hesitant. If he really wanted to harm me, just now was undoubtedly the perfect opportunity. He could have blown things up and used the chance to divorce me. With ironclad evidence, even Empress Song couldn't say anything. But Xie Zhao didn't. I became even more puzzled. And there is also Shai Fangfei. Mother-in-law clearly said she and Xie Zhao were childhood sweethearts, and they nearly got engaged for life. But Xie Zhao said he and Shi Fangfei had no feelings for each other. Between this mother and son, one of them must be lying to me. I had thought the situation was already clear, but now it seems still shrouded in fog. To find out the truth, I had Chuya go find some old servants from the Duke of England's mansion and ask if they knew about those matters from back then. Investigating these old affairs now is actually easier than when I first married in. After all, I've been the mistress of the Duke of England's mansion for 10 years. And Chuya, as my head maid, has also earned quite some prestige. Before long, she found an old woman named Sunday, whom she was on good terms with, and learned quite a lot. Granny Sunday used to serve in my mother-in-law's courtyard, but was later punished to guard the back gate because her drinking caused trouble. According to this Granny Sunday, more than 10 years ago, the Shia family and the Shi family were very close, even related by marriage, Chuyu said. Related by marriage? That can't be right. I've been the mistress of the Shia family for so many years, and there are set rules for social dealings between the mansions. The relationship between the Shia family and the Shi family is quite ordinary. Chuya said, Madam doesn't know. Granny Sunday said our Duke and the wife of Marquis, Zhongyang's second brother, were cousins. Later, Madame Shi passed away, and the Marquis of Zhongyang's brother remarried, so the two families gradually grew apart. What second brother? Third brother, cousins and whatnot? I asked in confusion. Then who is Shi Fangfei? Chuya said. Shi Fangfei is Madame Shi's daughter, Marquis Zhongyang's niece. Her mother passed away, so she needed to observe 3 years of mourning and naturally couldn't discuss marriage. I was even more confused, Shi Zhao said. Shi Fangfei eloped with someone at that critical moment. But who would do such a thing when their mother's body wasn't even cold yet? Chuya said, Granny Sunday doesn't know anything else. She only said Miss Shi was very much liked by the Duke, and the young master was also very attentive to Miss Shi. Before I could figure out the cause and effect of all this, the next afternoon, Shi Zhao brought several people who were bound up tightly to my courtyard. He said these were the people he had interrogated through the night, the masterminds behind the attempt on my life. The case was solved in just 1 day. I looked carefully but couldn't quite recognize the person in the lead. Is this the purchasing manager from the outer courtyard, Steward Liu? The person had been beaten black and blue, and only a vague outline of his features could be made out. Xi Zhao nodded. It was all caused by this treacherous servant. This person is narrow-minded and vicious. The year before last, he sought to marry King Xia from your chambers. After being rejected, he harbored resentment. Not long ago, he got acquainted with a wandering quack, who gave him some poison that could harm people without being noticed. This scoundrel was so audacious that he secretly put it into your donkey-hide gelatin paste. Steward Liu was a hereditary servant of the Duke of England's manor, responsible for purchasing goods for the household. All kinds of things did indeed pass through his hands. After Shi Zhao finished speaking, Xie Quan removed the rag from Steward Liu's mouth and barked. Speak! Steward Liu wailed to the heavens. Madam, this lowly one deserves 10,000 deaths. I truly didn't know this was poison that could harm people. This lowly one was blinded by greed. I was also deceived by others. I calmly asked, just for such a trivial matter you would poison me? Steward Liu cried, this lowly one truly loves Changsha and would marry no one but her. Every time I thought of it, resentment grew in my heart. This lowly one deserves to die. Deserves to die. He kowtowed while crying, and his forehead was soon dripping with blood. I carefully recalled that this person had indeed asked me to let him marry Changxia 2 years ago. Changxia was a dowry maid I brought from my maiden home. She was very beautiful, and my mother had prepared her for Shi Zhao. She said that all noble families have concubines in their households. Changxia was honest and beautiful, and her indenture was still in my hands, making her most suitable for keeping my husband's heart. Unfortunately, Shi Zhao was wholly devoted to his official duties, and had no intention of taking a concubine. I delayed Changxia for several years, and later could only find her a husband's family. When they heard I was selecting a husband for Changxia, quite a few people volunteered themselves, including Steward Liu and Guard Sunday from the outer courtyard. At the time, I thought that with Changxia's beauty, I needed to find someone who could protect her. So I was more inclined toward Guard Sunday from the outer courtyard. Changxia had no opinions of her own and followed my arrangements in everything. So I prepared her dowry and married her off to Guard Sunday with great fanfare. As it turned out, my choice was correct. Guard Sunday was straightforward and upright, and cared deeply for Changxia. This year, he even got into the Jinwu Guard through Sheijiao's connections, and now he holds an official position. My thoughts drifted further and further away, while Steward Liu's wailing and crying still hadn't ended. This lowly one deserves 10,000 deaths. I only beg Madam to spare my parents. This lowly one will repay Madam by tying grass and carrying a jade ring in the next life. Because he was too noisy, I had Xiaquan gag his mouth. Although everything seemed reasonable, I always felt this was a carefully prepared show for me, just to dispel my suspicions. Zhao observed my expression, knowing I didn't quite believe it, so he took out several sheets of paper. Qingwan, I've thoroughly investigated every link in this matter when this Steward Liu met that traveling doctor, how they made the deal, how much silver was spent, and how it was later put into the donkey hide gelatin paste, all with signed confessions. He handed these things to me for my review. I looked at them one by one, and indeed both witness testimonies and physical evidence were complete. Inside, there was also the traveling doctor's confession and the leftover poison, even detailing where he found the poisonous mushrooms, and where he successfully refined them. Since things had come to this, I called Tan Fang over and asked her to identify whether this leftover poison was the same as what was in my donkey hide gelatin paste. Tan Fang first took it and sniffed it, then poured out some to taste, and said to me, judging by the ingredients, it should be the same substance. If that is the case, Steward Liu should be the main person handling this matter. But I don't trust his story. There must be someone behind him pulling the strings. Me poisoning isn't severe now. But in my previous life, and the one before that, I only died of illness 3 or 4 years later. Without deep hatred, like killing one's father, or stealing one's wife, who could keep poisoning someone for 4 or 5 years. Wouldn't he find that troublesome? After everything was explained, Xiaquan took Steward Liu and his accomplices away, saying he would hand them over to the authorities. Before leaving, Xiaozhao said to me, Qingwan, everything is clear now. Don't suspect me anymore. I didn't treat you well before. Please forgive me. From now on, I will definitely treat you well. I swear on my life. I have no intention of harming you. Otherwise, may heaven strike me down and damn me for all eternity. Seeing how solemnly he spoke, I felt somewhat bewildered for a moment. After that, Shijiao was indeed as he said, extremely gentle with me and started trying to please me. He seemed like a completely different person, no longer caring about the aloof reserve of a noble young master. Every day after finishing his official duties, he would come to my courtyard to talk to me, and he never came empty-handed, either bringing me food from restaurants outside, or buying me jewelry and accessories, or writing some love letters and cheesy poems that made me cringe all over. I've been through 3 lifetimes of reincarnation. I am long past being a 17 or 18-year-old girl. His behavior is just too childish, but everyone in my courtyard was happy for me, especially Qiuyo, who even thanked the heavens for making Sheijiao have a change of heart. I was so annoyed that to avoid him, I simply submitted my name card and entered the palace. My sister, Empress Song, heard about all this mess in my family and couldn't help but laugh. From the looks of it, the person who harmed you wasn't the young lord. Since he is sincerely seeking reconciliation, why not just go along with it? You are husband and wife after all. Are you going to keep a cold face forever? Seeing that I didn't respond, she continued. Before, when you wanted his life, he didn't even pursue the matter. Just based on this magnanimity alone, a prodigal who returns is worth more than gold. I covered my ears. Nobody tried to persuade me. After being neglected for 10 years, why should I let it go just because Shijiao coaxes me a little? Besides, I don't think Shijiao has been cleared of suspicion. The matter of me being harmed is still full of doubts. Just as we sisters were talking, a eunuch came from outside to report that Consort Shan and Consort Qi had come to pay their respects. My sister's expression instantly turned sour, and she sneered, Tatsuke Tesk, the annoying ones are here. Before long, Consort Shan and Consort Shi walked in gracefully at the same time. Consort Shan smiled gently and said, "The heir's wife is here too, what a coincidence." Consort Shi also said, "Madam has a good complexion. Do you have any secret tips?" Thinking back to how I used to be like a resentful wife. Of course my complexion wasn't good, but facing the two consorts, I could only say politely, "Your Highness flatters me." With the two of them coming to pay respects, my sister and I couldn't continue our chat. Empress Song exchanged a few lukewarm pleasantries, then had the palace maids bring some iced cream. Consort Shi was easygoing, praised it once, then picked up the iced cream and started eating. But Consort Xian asked a palace maid for some salt to add before eating and smiled. "Please don't mind, Your Majesty, I just like it this way." Empress Song said with a forced smile, "As long as you like it." But the scene before me made my blood run cold. Besides Consort Xian, I knew one other person who added salt to iced cream Xie Zhao. As if something flashed through my mind, I couldn't help but scrutinize Consort Xian. She was around my age, wearing a cyan palace dress, graceful yet elegant, with green bamboo patterns embroidered on the fabric. That was a style Xie Zhao was extremely fond of. Events from over a decade ago, a childhood sweetheart bond. The deaths I couldn't escape both times. A tiny detail seemed to connect every mystery, and the truth, like ruins buried for years, gradually emerged before my eyes. On the night I planned to kill Xie Zhao, he emphatically claimed he had no feelings for Xi Fangfei. In fact, Li Fu also mentioned that Xie Zhao had never spent the night at Changelfang. Rather than calling Lady Xi an outside mistress, she was more like a responsibility. But back then, my mother-in-law said Xie Zhao had fallen in love with the Xi family's young lady, and was depressed because she had passed away. I thought one of them, mother or son, must be lying, but now it seems perhaps neither of them deceived me. I suddenly had an extremely bold conjecture. Over a decade ago, the person in love with Xie Zhao wasn't Xi Fangfei, who is now at Changelfang, but the current Emperor Xian consort Xi Manhua. This way, everything had a reasonable explanation. Over a decade ago, when the Duke of England's cousin was still alive, the Xi and Xia families had a good relationship and naturally visited each other frequently. The two young ladies of the Xi family, Xi Fangfei and Xi Manhua, though not from the same mother, were cousins of similar age, so they naturally often came to visit the Xi family. It was during this time that Xie Zhao and Xi Manhua got to know each other. But before the two could get engaged, Xi Manhua's mother passed away from a sudden illness. This way, she needed to observe 3 years of mourning for her mother, and the marriage was naturally delayed. Meanwhile, for the family's glory, Marquis Zhongyang decided to send his daughter Xi Manhua into the palace. But Xi Manhua already had a secret affair with the family's painting and calligraphy tutor. To avoid entering the palace, she took the gold, silver, and valuables, and resolutely eloped with the tutor. This was the crime of deceiving the emperor. The Marquis of Zhongyang was already out of favor with the current emperor. With something like this happening, they might well have their titles stripped and property confiscated. Left with no choice, the Shai family could only have Shai Fangfei replace Shai Manhua to enter the palace. She is the current noble consort Shan. So Shai Fangfei is Shai Manhua, and Shai Manhua is actually Shai Fangfei. After something like this happened, no matter how unwilling Xie Zhao was, there was nothing he could do. The relationship between the two families gradually grew distant from then on. Later, Xie Zhao married me, and Xi Fangfei became noble consort Xian. She was low-key and modest, never competing or fighting for favor. Her luck wasn't bad either. She gave birth to the second prince and managed to establish her footing in the palace. The matter of the Xi sisters swapping identities was like a small pebble thrown into a stream, creating no ripples at all. This matter seemed to have nothing to do with my death. But if you work backwards from the outcome, you'd realize it was actually the root cause that led to my death. The key is the second prince. The second prince is intelligent and studious, gentle and generous. Only 1 year younger than the crown prince, he is one of the strong candidates for the heir position in the future. Although the Duke of Ying's household married me, and was seen as natural allies of Empress Song and the crown prince, the one they've actually been secretly supporting all along should be the second prince. No wonder the second prince's maternal family kept a low profile, yet always acted with proper conduct and had a good reputation. It must have been the Duke of Ying advising from behind the scenes and secretly nurturing them all along. Their reason for doing this was quite simple. First, on the crown prince's side, no matter how well the Duke of England performs, he can never surpass my father and my brother. But it is different on Consort Qian's side. The Marquis of Zhongyang is muddle-headed and incompetent, with no great achievements, so the Duke of England can monopolize power. Secondly, the Duke of England has a blood relation with the second prince. Although others don't know this, supporting the second prince, whether from kinship or self-interest, will bring richer rewards in the future. As for why he must get rid of me, although as a daughter-in-law I am insignificant and my words carry no weight, I am still the young lord's wife after all. I suddenly felt like laughing, and I couldn't help but burst into loud laughter. Empress Song and the two consorts were startled and asked me, "What is wrong? What happened?" But I laughed so hard I couldn't straighten my back. I even shed tears. So that is how it was. So my unreliable mother-in-law wasn't lying to me. During the more than 10 years I spent with Shay Zhao, he really did slowly fall in love with me. Me weight in his heart grew heavier day by day, even affecting his political choices. The moment the Duke of England discovered that his son leaned more toward the crown prince because of his wife, my death was imminent. So, it turns out, the love I had always yearned for was actually the death warrant for both my lives. The Duke of England truly lives up to being a veteran of 2 reigns. A pillar of the court, what great scheming. In my previous 2 lives to achieve his grand ambitions, he silently got rid of me, and no one suspected a thing. Perhaps he had murderous intent long ago, which is why he took my son Shi Yun away. And precisely because Shi Yun was there, the Song family was at ease, and Empress Song and the Crown Prince would still believe in the Duke of England's loyalty. Meanwhile, the Duke of England was openly repairing the plank road, while secretly advancing through Shenkang. Truly brilliant. As for Shi Zhao, after the donkey hide gelatin incident, he must have discovered that Steward Liu was acting under the Duke of England's orders, so he only presented a partial truth to me. I was really so foolish. After rebirth, I had always been dwelling on trivial details, never expecting that my death was actually related to the political situation and family choices. After sorting through all of this, I wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes. Although these are all my speculations, there is still one person who can prove whether my thoughts are true. After leaving the palace, I had someone drive the carriage and headed straight for Changle Lane. After arriving at the private residence in Changle Lane, I brought people and barged straight in. The family guarding the gate were also from the Duke of England's manor. Upon seeing me, they all fell silent and stood aside obediently with their hands at their sides. I had just walked into the main hall when a maidservant came out recklessly, shouting, "Where did you all come from? How could you barge in without even announcing yourselves?" Several people beside me immediately grabbed this maidservant. Qiu scolded arrogantly. "A mistress's servant dares not kneel upon seeing my madam. You've really gone too far." She had always thought that Shi Zhao's mistress lived in Changle Lane, and felt extremely indignant on my behalf. Only then did the maidservant become dumbfounded, crying as she said, "Our young madam is not some kept woman. Don't you dare insult her." I ignored her and simply said, "Have Madam Shi come out. I have questions for her." Just then, a woman's voice came from inside the hall. "I wonder what matter Madam has. This humble one is merely a widow, not competing with the world, just keeping my head down and living my days." After speaking, a woman walked out from behind the curtain. She was dressed in plain clothes, without any makeup, about 27 or 28 years old, and bore a striking resemblance to consort Shan, about 70 to 80% similar, except her face looked somewhat melancholic, lacking consort Shan's graceful serenity. These two really were sisters. It was because they looked so alike that they could swap identities. I sneered and said, "What is sister saying? Since you are with the young lord, you naturally belong to the Duke of Ying's household. I came here precisely to bring you all back." The woman's face turned pale with fright, her fingers tightly clutching her handkerchief, as she softly said, "Madam has truly misunderstood. This humble one has nothing to do with young Lord Shi." I stared at her intently and said slowly, "Is that so, Shi Manhua?" Upon hearing me call out this name, she trembled all over, looking at me in utter terror, her mouth open but unable to utter a single word. Her reaction had already said everything. My guess was correct. After quite a while, Shi Manhua finally lowered her head and said, "I knew the young lord and madam were a loving couple, but I never expected he would even tell madam about these matters." I sighed and continued to probe her for information. "Shi Manhua, do you regret your choice back then? If you hadn't eloped with someone, you would be the current Xian Fei." The woman before me, Shi Manhua, raised her head and said softly, "What is done is done. There is no point in talking about it anymore." She smoothed the hair at her temples and said wistfully, "Besides, I never wanted to elope with anyone back then. It was all just fate playing tricks on me." I asked in confusion. "You didn't want to elope?" Shi Manhua shook her head self-deprecatingly. "Madam doesn't know. Shanfei Nyang, my cousin, discovered the letters my late husband wrote to me before I was to enter the palace. She wanted to take my place in entering the palace, so she threatened me to elope with my late husband. If I didn't comply, she would hand over the letters and let everyone know I had been secretly corresponding with an outside man." As if she rarely had a chance to speak her mind, she looked at me and said, "Shizi Furin, someone like me would be useless even in the palace. Only my cousin is suited for that place. Isn't that right?" I was stunned, speechless. I had only wanted to confirm the matter of the sisters swapping identities, but who would have thought there was more to the story? Shi Fangfei was on good terms with Xie Zhao, and could have become the wife of Duke Ying's heir in the future. "Wouldn't that have been better than entering the palace?" I asked. "A consort does have a rank, but she is still a concubine of the royal family, forever beneath my sister. Empress Song." Shi Manhua shook her head. "Madam is also a wife of the Shi family. You should know Aunt Shi's temperament. She knew the Shai family had long been an empty shell, and never thought highly of my cousin. Although the Duke of England made the match, after marriage one spends most of the time living with the mother-in-law. How could my cousin accept that? So she chose to enter the palace, even at the cost of forcing out her own cousin. On the way back, I kept my eyes closed and said nothing. Consort Xian is so calculating, does Shi Zhao know? Since he could look after Shi Manhua. He must know, right? He thought. His beloved was separated from him against her will, and gave me cold words for so many years. But in reality, Shi Fangfei simply no longer thought highly of him. People seek higher places, water flows downhill. Not hesitating to frame her own cousin entering the palace to seek favor before her mother's body was even cold consort. Shan is truly quite a character. I suddenly opened my eyes. What should I do now? Now that I've finally figured out the person who wants to kill me is the Duke of England, can Shao stop him? Should I still entrust my life to someone else? The answer is no. I suddenly smiled. Doesn't Xie Zhao love me? Right now, I need to make good use of this love. After returning to the manor, Xie Zhao was waiting for me in the courtyard. These past few days, he kept saying he wanted to find me a jade chin made by a master from the previous dynasty, sparing no expense to offer a reward. Today, as soon as I stepped through the courtyard gate, I heard a melodious sound of the Qin Shi Zhao was playing the qin in the courtyard. The melody was pleasant to the ear, as if weeping and lamenting. It seems he found that famous qin, but unfortunately, I am no longer in the mood to appreciate it. Seeing me return, Shi Zhao smiled and said, "You are back. Come quickly and look at this chin." I stood still, only gesturing for everyone around to leave. After they all withdrew, I said, "I went to Changelfang today. You should know by now." My every word and action would naturally be reported to Xie Zhao by someone. Xie Zhao paused for a moment, then said, "Then you should also know that she and I are completely innocent, with no relationship whatsoever." I raised my eyebrows and said, "Actually, I don't care about your relationship with Shai Fangfei or Shai Manhua. There is a saying that, if the ruler wants his subject dead, the subject has no choice but to die. But no one said if a father-in-law wants his daughter-in-law dead, she must die, right? Though I am a wife of the Xia family, I am also a daughter of the Song family." Xi Zhao was stunned. He lowered his eyes and said softly, "What are you talking about?" I didn't answer, only handed him the paper from my arms. "Young lord, here is a letter of divorce. Please sign it." Xi Zhao's expression suddenly changed, and he said through gritted teeth, "Qingwan, I don't know what gossip you've heard. I told you, I won't let anything happen to you in the future." I flipped the table over in one motion, and the jade chin crashed hard onto the ground. With a bang, the chin worth 1,000 gold was destroyed. Just like that. You knew exactly who was trying to harm me, knew how dangerous my situation was. Yet you still destroyed evidence and misdirected attention. What exactly are your intentions? I, Song Qingwan, slaved away for your Shi family for 10 years. Do I deserve to be killed by you all? If we divorce, I won't pursue this matter. But if you push me too far, we'll take this to His Majesty and see who is in the right." Xi Zhao was rendered speechless by my questioning. A flash of pain crossed his eyes as he held on to me and said, "Qingwan, I've already made things clear with my father. If anything happens to you, I'll follow you in life and death. He won't make a move against you anymore." I let out a few cold laughs and said, "Is that so? Then I should thank you. Thank you for sparing my life." Xi Zhao held my shoulders. "Qingwan, trust me once. Just trust me one more time." Seeing the timing was about right, I suddenly threw myself into Xi Zhao's arms, covering my face as I wept. "Husband, please let me go. I don't want to live every day in fear. For the sake of my sincere feelings for you all these years. For the sake of our Yuner, sign this divorce paper, and let me live on my own." I cried in utter misery and sorrow. Xie Zhao held me tightly and said with heartache, "I won't let anything happen to you. If anything really happens, I will never live on alone." I rolled my eyes. "Who wants to die together with you? Am I that cheap? But I can't say that now," I only cried. "Don't defy father. The Duke doesn't have just you as a son. There is also your second brother. Your sister-in-law is already more favored than me. If you lose the position of heir because of me, wouldn't that be even more my fault? One can live without romantic love, but one cannot be disloyal or unfilial." These words were sensible and heartfelt, striking right at Xie Zhao's heart. Seeing him standing there dazed, unable to speak, I sobbed, "Now that I've become an eyesore to the Duke, what is the point of staying? It is better we part ways amicably, who knows? Perhaps there'll be a day we reunite." Xi Zhao painfully closed his eyes. "I can't be without you, Qingwan." I gently placed a kiss on his lips and said, "I'll wait for you. I only ask that you give me a way out. When you can be the master of the house in the future, I'll naturally come back." After exhausting all my gentle persuasion, I finally obtained the divorce letter. Actually, I had thought it through long ago. Given the current situation, making a big fuss would do me no good. The evidence of the Duke of England plotting against me had long been cleaned up by Xi Zhao, and that minor steward Liu had already been brought to justice. With only these speculations, even if I brought it to His Majesty, it would be dismissed as a family matter. Once it is a family matter. The single word, filial piety alone, could crush me to death. How could the Duke of England possibly let me divorce amicably? He would only pretend to be good to me, then look for another opportunity to strike. So my only option was to leave. As long as I am no longer a daughter-in-law of the Xia family, I can stand on the opposing side against them. After Xia Zhao was called away by the Duke of England, I hurriedly packed some things and ran straight to the front courtyard to take Xia Yun away. Next, I didn't even return to my maiden home and took the child directly into the palace. Empress Song was startled to see me, and Xia Yun suddenly divorced and returned, and said, "What is going on?" I clenched my fists and said, "Sister, it is a long story." Next, I told my sister everything about the Xi sisters' switched marriages, the Duke of England's duplicity, and his secret contacts with the harem. Empress Song was so angry her whole body trembled, and she cursed, "That old scoundrel Duke of England, he has gone way too far." I said unhurriedly, "Sister, don't be angry. His Majesty is in his prime, yet he is already picking and choosing among the princes, daring to meddle in imperial affairs. Good children have been corrupted by his instigation. You must report this to his Majesty. And there is Consort Xian, who is clearly Shy Fangfei, but pretends to be Shy Manhua, and even entered the palace during her mother's mourning period. This is putting his Majesty in an unrighteous position. I've already got Shy Manhua under control. It is up to you how to use this." "Sister." Empress Song nodded and sneered. "His Majesty values filial piety the most. If he knew Consort Xian entered the palace impersonating her cousin less than 2 months after her mother's death, he would definitely despise her." I chimed in, "How could such a woman be fit to raise a prince? It seems we can only trouble sister to take care of him instead." Empress Song looked at me with satisfaction and smiled. "Killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Brilliant move, little sister." I sneered. "It is all thanks to my dear father-in-law's good teachings." What happened next, Empress Song handled extremely smoothly. She first had censors impeach Consort Xian and the Duke of Ying for secretly colluding. Consort Xian and the Duke of Ying naturally wouldn't sit and wait for death. In their panic, they began to counterattack forcefully, but their actions were too quick, too coordinated. His Majesty saw it all, and couldn't help feeling very uncomfortable. For the next step, Empress Song finally brought the real Xi Manhua into the palace, letting her present her case to His Majesty, and reveal Consort Xian's true identity, and what happened back then. Xi Manhua had been harmed so miserably by Consort Xian. She had long wanted revenge. To have such a day, she felt very satisfied. Moreover, after she returned, the Shy family completely refused to accept her. If not for Xie Zhao, she might have died long ago. Empress Song promised her great benefits, and Xi Manhua willingly switched sides. For a moment, the Xi family and Consort Xian couldn't defend themselves no matter what they said. They would of course refute, saying Xi Manhua was lying, that she had shamelessly eloped with someone back then. But Empress Song found a lot more evidence, such as some servants from the Shy family, who could prove the 2 sisters had switched identities. And the second prince's current teacher was actually secretly found by the Duke of Ying. Both sides stuck to their own stories, so it came down to who His Majesty wanted to believe. Very fortunately, this matter perfectly hit His Majesty's sore spot. The Emperor was furious. He didn't particularly like Consort Xian to begin with. He only gave her some favor on account of her merit in bearing children. Upon learning she was so calculating, treacherous, and vicious, His Majesty even wanted to grant Consort Xian death to be done with it. It was Empress Song who reminded him, saying for the second prince's sake, she was only banished to the cold palace. Next, His Majesty severely reprimanded Duke Ying, stripped him of all his actual positions at court, and ordered him to reflect behind closed doors. The illustrious Duke Ying's manor, prominent for 100 years, was instantly shrouded in shadow. Xi Zhao was caught off guard by this series of events. He knew I was behind all of this, and desperately wanted to see me, to ask why I went back on my word. But I completely ignored him, only having someone deliver one message: "Let's part ways and each find our own happiness." Xi Zhao waited for a whole month, until finally one rainy night he collapsed on the street, and never came again after that. With my help, Empress Song achieved a complete victory. Duke Ying's years of scheming came to nothing, and he wished he could take my life. But I was no longer his daughter-in-law, and he couldn't do anything to me. To get revenge on me. He went to the Song family multiple times demanding Shi Yun, declaring that divorce was fine, but the child couldn't be taken away. This old scoundrel wanted to use the child to restrain me. How could I not be on guard? I had my sister issue an imperial decree directly, selecting Shi Yun as the crown prince's study companion. From now on, he would eat and live with the crown prince in the palace, and wouldn't be going back for years. After the decree was announced, my father sneered. "Duke, did you hear that? Our Song family never said we wanted Shi Yun. This child's surname is Shi, and that will never change." My brother was even more ruthless, saying, "He is the eldest legitimate grandson of your family. Don't worry, my sister will take good care of him in the palace. After all, this child will inherit the Duke of England's estate in the future." Wahahahahaha. The Duke of England clutched his chest. "You are going too far." He never expected that this grandson, who was like a chess piece to him, would use this very identity to turn the tables on him. Thanks to him, I've mastered the strategy of going with the flow to perfection. Now the Duke of England can't take the child away, and when he dies in the future, I'll immediately have Empress Song arrange for our Yunner to inherit the title. Who told this child to be of the old Shia family's bloodline, so for now I won't bring down the Duke of England's estate either. After all, I'll have to go there to be the Dowager Matriarch in the future. After the Duke of England returned from the Song family, he fell seriously ill and was bedridden for over a year before passing away. I heard that before he died, he was still murmuring, "Huir, I am sorry, Huir. I am coming. I sent someone to investigate. Who is Huir?" Latter, I only found out by asking Shi Manhua that Huir was the virtuous consort in the Cold Palace, which was the maiden name of Shi Fangfei's mother. After listening to some elders, I learned that when the Duke of England was young, he was in love with his cousin. Unfortunately, his cousin's family fell into decline. He couldn't influence his parents' decision, and the two could only part ways in sorrow. He placed his love and regrets for his cousin onto Shi Fangfei. That is why he treated her so well. He didn't mind that the Shi family had fallen on hard times and agreed to let Shi Fangfei marry in. Even after being betrayed by Shi Fangfei, he still chose to continue supporting her, supporting the second prince, and even didn't hesitate to harm me, a properly married daughter-in-law who had done nothing wrong. I sighed with Empress Song. So, the Duke of England was a devoted lover after all. Empress Song said, "Isn't Shi Zhao the same?" After the Duke of England died, Shi Zhao inherited the title and became the Duke of England. His reputation had always been good. He handled his duties diligently, followed the rules and knew his place, slowly restoring the reputation of the Duke of England's mansion. These past few years, Xie Zhao had been foolishly waiting for me to change my mind, continuously writing me letters, hoping I would come back. His Majesty and the Empress were still satisfied with him, and also advised me to stay faithful to one husband, to take the child back, and reunite as a family. The Song family felt the same way. I thought about it and went to ask Shi Yun. The child had grown up over the years and had his own thoughts now. But Shi Yun said, "Mother, do whatever you want to do. I believe the choice is in your hands." Yes, my fate is in my own hands. Is there anything more gratifying than this?